I'm embarrassed to keep your lordships even a few minutes more, but I stand to support the noble Lord Goddard's amendment, but also to support my noble friend Lord Jackson's stand part to 69 and introduce my own stand part opposition to clause 66. Thus I go further than the noble Lord Goddard, even though I very much support his words. My lords, why is clause 65 in combination with clause 66 so damaging? Noble Lord Goddard was quite right to focus on the democratic legitimacy of clause 65's provisions, but there is a further, even more key set of problems with these clauses. And if you'll permit me at this very late hour, for which I apologise, I'll give a very, very brief review of the history. So first, let's look at days lost to strikes in the 1970s. In 1970, 10 million days lost to strikes. In 1972, 24 million days lost to strikes. In 1979, 30 million days lost to strikes, the winter of discontent. So we consequently have the Thatcher reforms, which outlawed secondary action, banned strikes conducted for political reasons, regulated picketing, required secret ballots for strike action, and made trade unions legally accountable for actions taken in their name, which enabled unions to restore control and reduce the number of unofficial strikes, which had been a major source of the growth in strike activity in the 60s and 70s. The result, post-Thatcher, through to the 2020s, strikes on average were less than 500,000 days a year lost. Industrial peace, directly as a consequence of those reforms. No more winter of discontent. This was enormously valuable, for example, for the Blair and Brown governments of the noughties. Let us note, my lords, that the government's bill seeks to eliminate very little of these specific Thatcher reforms. The noble Lord Hendy's amendments, just discussed, do make an attempt at that, and I'm glad to hear the government sensibly decline his invitation. However, even though the government apparently sees the sense of leaving most of the Thatcher reforms in place, it does, in clause 65 and 66 particularly, seem to be looking to find other ways to unionise the private sector landscape. If it succeeds, there will be inevitable consequences for the UK's economy. Last week, my lords, it was observed that unions were, at our current time, mostly confined to the public sector in the UK. But nobody asked why was that so. And it's obviously because public sector workers have a monopoly of employment, so can enforce their will, and timid governments seek to placate them so as to be able to appear at least to be in charge. What's the impact of this? Multiple public sector strikes and excessive wage settlements in the public sector, the cost of which are now directly leading the Chancellor to her current dilemma of a runaway deficit plus underserved public services such as social care and child welfare, and an impending debt crisis. What will clauses 65 and 66 collectively do to the union landscape in the UK? Clause 65 removes Part 2A of Clause 226, meaning that for the ballot to be valid, you no longer have any floor for the percentage of employees voting. Clause 66 alters Part 2A3 so that only a majority of those voting would be required for a strike to go forward. So for one businessman that I spoke to just today, who was utterly startled by this news, he runs an SME employing 36 workers. For him, if, say, 1/3 of them, 12 people, vote, and only 6 of those 36 employees vote to strike, then you have a strike. Not hard, my lords, to find 6 out of 36 employees to vote for a strike, but is that, as the noble Lord Goddard pointed out, democratic? Will the electorate's heart warm to this quantitative gerrymandering? As I described just now, we all see the impact of unionisation in the public sector. What will happen in the private sector if this bill, in the undemocratic manner that the noble Lord Goddard has so rightly decried, passes? I described last week in this chamber some of the past where unionisation destroyed industries, such as the London docks, and the present, where the public is tormented by public sector strikes, ranging from dustbins to doctors, from teachers to train drivers. This present-day public sector malaise, if it spreads to the private sector, will, as my noble friend Lord Hunt made clear, take us straight back to the 70s and the winter of discontent. My lords, if the government are sensibly not really proposing to change much of the Margaret Thatcher reforms, which have brought industrial peace to the private sector at least, why is there any need to bring in these new anti-democratic changes? Does the government really think that allowing strikes to go forward with feasibly only 10% or even less of employees voting for the strike will be seen by the public, and indeed by the other 90% of the employees of that company, as anything but outrageous? Even more strikes, even more outrageous wage settlements, even more yawning deficits, even, dare I say, a very large and this time real economic black hole. If the government proceeds with these changes, the inevitable consequent industrial strife will be laid at their door. The Labour Party saw what happened to them in the 1979 election as a result of the winter of discontent. Why, my lords, are they now seeking a similar fate in 2029? I urge them to withdraw Clause 66 and indeed Clause 65.